Good morning, it's NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, Lee Clark and Danny Posthill. Well, good morning. It's a Sunday morning. How are you doing, Lee?
I'm good, Steve. I'm good, Danny. How are you?
Aye, all good, all good. Danny, good to have you on, mate. We'll catch up a little bit with you in a minute. I just want to find out what happened with Blue Star yesterday, Lee. Big question.
The first team played on Friday night, Steve, at CrossFit Berkeley behind closed doors, lost 3-0. But as I spoke to you yesterday organising this, I was down watching a lot of the youngsters play, you know. I say the youngsters. When I get to one of the teams, but under 10s, under 12s, under 17s, we're all having games. And then I got roped into while I was waiting for one of the teams to come on to watch the over 40s make their debut game, which was interesting to say the least. I'm going to be, when I'm sitting down with the committee and the board, I'm going to be asking what the fitness coach is doing for the over 40s, because it doesn't look like he's working them very hard.
Right, give me and Danny a ring. Danny's all right in the nets, and I'm all right hacking people. So if you ever need anybody, if you need a help with Blue Star, we're all right for that. Danny, great to see you, mate. I think, by the way, this is we've got to give a bit of praise to social media is a great thing, because obviously I saw your stuff that went out there the other day. The Richard Masters and the Premier League things really starting to get on people's wick, and of course you being the top impressionist, you all came out with an absolute classic the other day, which I retweeted. We'll probably ask you to do that a little bit later. I first want to say as well a shout out to John Payne, who contacted us and said, you know, he just reminded us that you were still in the game, what you were doing, and he says we've got to give Nana Pauline a mention today, Danny.
Oh yeah, it's mad. Me Nana watches everything that I do. I mean, I've got an MMA podcast out, right? I don't even think she knows what MMA is, but she watches it and she doesn't have a clue what we're talking about. She says, "Hey, I really enjoyed that. Was good." I'm like, "Oh, jeez, man." You know what I mean?
So just a little bit about you for people who maybe don't know you, Danny. You've good pal of mine, good pal of Lee's and Joe Allen's. You're an impressionist. That's when you really sprung to fame. So tell us how you got into doing that, really.
Well, I started doing impressions when I was at school, really, like any impressionist. I started doing the teachers and stuff like that. And I remember, I think the first impression I used to do was John Motson, because I used to play on FIFA all the time, you know. And I do remember that all I used to do was when I was playing football, I used to commentate on everything that was going on. Oh, absolutely unbelievable! And just get like really excited, you know what I mean? So like that was probably the first one that I do. But recently, I've really done a lot of footballers. I've been sort of doing more politicians and stuff like that, because they're the people who are generally on the news all the time. Obviously, after the when I recently done Boris. And by the way, it's great if we can get Boris involved with Richard Masters, because I just think the fans, he's picked on the wrong fans, hasn't he, if I'm honest with you, Richard Masters. Do you know what I mean? And even when I done an impression of Boris, I said, Richard Masters, I don't think you understand how bad this has got. I would rather deal with a terrorist organisation than I would Newcastle United supporters. Do you know what I mean? Because we just don't care, do we? Do you know what I mean? We're there, like the passion for the Newcastle fans is just unbelievable. You know,
brilliant, mate. I mean, you started with John Motson, but obviously, you know, when what do you do when you want to get into that game? You know, like, you know, how do you go about it? Was it just going out and doing clubs or what? You know, was it practicing on your mates? Do you practice on your family?
Well, yeah, me French teacher asked me to do a school talent show. And because I originally wanted to be a footballer, and obviously I failed miserably, so I'm like, what else am I going to do? Do you know what I mean? And then I started, you know, I got up and I'd done some impressions at the school talent show. And then after that, I'd done the last day at school. I'd done, my teachers and stuff like that. And then I'd done my mum's and John's wedding, funnily enough. I done a gig there. And then ever since then, I just used to I was just doing like charity events and stuff like that. And it sort of stemmed from there. And I was doing loads of dead end jobs in between. And then now I'm fortunate enough to be doing a full time. Well, I say full time. I haven't worked for 4.5 months. You know what I mean? With this dreadful disease from China. You know, the kung fu really bad. You know? But no, it's nice that I'm fortunate enough to be doing a job that I love, you know.
Yeah, listen, mate, it's fantastic. And I mean, anybody who hasn't seen you, you know, we'll shout out on your socials later. Anybody who wants to book you, I suppose, as well, you know, it's well worth getting Danny down, because he's brilliant at what he does. He's top of his game. And you did have a little break as well. You ended up on national TV as well, didn't you? Which is always going to help. Tell us about the show that you were on and how well you did.
Well, yeah, so I was fortunate enough. So I was doing a comedy club at the Hen and Chickens in London, and the producer from Britain's Got Talent come up to me and really enjoyed what I did. And they says, "Oh, do you want to come on, and come on the show?" I says, "Oh, do I need to speak to producers before, go in and do a gig in front of the producers before I get to the judges?" And they says, "Oh no, you're gonna like go straight in front of the judges." I thought, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? Especially with Simon Cowell, because obviously, do you know what I mean? He's not someone you want to try and make laugh, is he? He's just a ruthless businessman. Yeah. So anyway, I'd done my first audition, went really well. And then obviously I got through to the final. And it was great because Ant and Dec, I was a bit nervous doing it, but Ant and Dec were just there. And they're lovely lads. You know them, don't you, Steve?
Yeah, I met them a lot of times, mate, yeah.
And Dec could do anything. Like they could do anything. Even if they weren't very good, people would like forgive them because they're so great. Do you know what I mean? And they're so like Ant and Dec could be managers of the England football team. You know what I mean? Like they would just turn it into a show, wouldn't they? Like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
So welcome back to the changing room where we're about to pick the starting 11 for the World Cup qualifiers. So here we go. Joe Hart, it's not you. You know. So I just think they're just so nice and they're so lovely. Do you know what I mean? Well, they missed the Saturday night, aren't they? You know, so it was great working with them, and it was just a great opportunity because it's a huge platform, you know. So and I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity to do it. And obviously, ever since then, you know, it's went really well for me. So yeah, I was delighted with it.
No, great stuff. Well, listen, it's great to have you on the show. I've told you a little bit how it works beforehand. We let the audience tend to decide which direction we're going after we've talked about a couple of things. I love this quote, by the way. Masters have swung a stick at a wasp's nest, says Kirk. I think that probably sums it all up. And just to keep Lee happy, Alan McKenzie just says, "Tell Lee me partner Maureen's just ordered me a Blue Star top, extra large, but it's a surprise." So this. We're still continuing to get them out, mate. You have to keep knocking them up.
Well done, Steve. You're doing a brilliant job. We're having a ridiculous amount of shirts going out. It's been phenomenal, the response. So thanks for this. Obviously, shows helping along the way, and it's great. I'm not sure there was a few. I think there might have been a few quadruple XLs yesterday with the over 40s, mate.
well, Phil Davison's joined when he says, "Tell Lee I played against the Blue Star over 40s yesterday, and I scored a goal in the first half when I'd done a Cruyff turn and the left foot. I don't know what an SMA is like, but he must have scored anyway. So is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure it was a Johan Cruyff at Pierce. Like, I mean, I remember seeing it in the finish. Yeah, Wickham ran out 4-1 winners. But as I said, it was the first game ever for Blue Stars over 40s. And it's good to see the older guys still having a go at it, and they still got that competitive edge. But I think after about 20 minutes, especially with the heat, they were asking the pitch to be shortened and everything.
Well, Dunstan had a good result yesterday. We played North Shields in our first friendly. As I'm part of the committee, I was allowed to go, so it was good to see Dunstan play. They won 3-0. I think it could have been more. No shame on North Shields' mind. I think they'll trouble a few teams in the Northern League. Obviously, Dunstan now, a higher league in the pyramid. But it was a good start, and Dunstan were missing a few players as well yesterday. So for them to get a 3-0 win, it bodes well for the season. Just got to hope we'll get a start date for the season. Still a lot of uncertainty as to whether football, even at that level, is going to return properly. And sad to hear Droylsden went the journey. Probably the first of many. Another club which had, I've been down to Droylsden a couple of times with Dunstan, and just sad to hear clubs going out of business, Lee.
Oh, absolutely awful, Steve. And as you say, well-renowned team in the non-league circuit. The football clubs at the level now we're at, they need supporters. They can't play behind closed doors. Do you know what I mean? So we just need to try and get it back as safe and quickly as possible, because they're the lifeblood. The lower league clubs, it's the lifeblood of the game. It's it's what it's all about, getting those fans through and giving them a bit of entertainment, letting them have a little bit of social time together. So the quicker that can happen, the better for everybody, you know.
Chris Collins says, do you not fancy showing them how to go on? I think he's talking about the over 40s. No. That's not going to happen. There was few questions asked yesterday when I was there watching. Did I not have a pair of boots in the boot of the car? And it was like emphatic no. Me twice a week, 5-a-side over at Gateshead or 7-a-side's enough for me. I cannot walk for a couple of days. I'm not sure the old full-size pitch is ready for us anymore. I'll leave that to the other guys. Fair play. Jason Carter says, who is Danny's favourite impressionist from years gone by? So, Danny, favourite impressionist?
Oh, it's got to be Alistair McGowan. He's my hero. Do you know what I mean? I just think he's the best. And it's funny because some voices he'd done when I started out, I sort of copied. I didn't copy the impression of the person. I would just copy him doing the impression of the person. Do you know what I mean? Which is like really lazy, but I suppose you do that. Like you must know yourself, like your heroes or you watch play football, you sort of take a little bit from them, don't you? And they sort of influence how you work, you know? So yeah, Alistair McGowan. I'm obviously good mates with Bobby Davro as well. He's always been one of my favourites. And obviously the Mikey Harwood, absolute legend, you know. Yeah. But I'd say Alistair McGowan's probably my favourite. Yeah,
good stuff. And Jack says, did you have any inspirations getting into the game? Was there anybody local? I mean, you know, I'm just trying to think of who was a good local, but you know, who were your inspirations? Those people you mentioned, obviously heroes and that, but was there anybody local who you followed in the footsteps of or got advice of?
Well, I remember watching Rudy West when I was about 16. And he was like one of the funniest men I've ever seen, you know. And he's, like I say, he's still going strong, Rudy. Well, obviously not at the minute. We're all out to work. But, you know, I occasionally like talk to him every other week, you know, and he'll have a moan on the phone to me for about an hour or something like that. And, it's, I can still remember Mike Yarwood showing me age now. Well, I'm 33 and I knew Mike Yarwood. To be fair, Mike Yarwood was like well before my time as well, you know. But, no, it's like I said, I think Mike Yarwood is the impressionist's impressionist, you know. Yeah, like I think everyone knows who Mike Yarwood is, even if it was well before their time, you know.
Yeah. Simon Cox, he's trying to get you into trouble already. You've only been at the club a couple of weeks. Simon, of course, is Gavin Peak related to Gavin Peacock. He says, as useless as I am, can I have a game for the over 40s when Gavin is next over and him as a ringer?
Hey, listen, get yourself down, get in touch with the club. I think they had some trials. I think you know, it's a brand new concept for them. The lads, as I said, great attitudes and that yesterday. But I still think they'll be looking to bring players in. So if they're interested, get yourself down there, you know.
Hey, Lee, I'll come and play in goal for you, mate. I'll just give you some fake ID. Do you know what I mean? I think I'm 33, but I think I'll just about manage on over 40. You've seen me play, Steve.
I've got to say, they looked like there was a couple of ringers in the opposition yesterday, the way they were whizzing about the pitch.
There's got to be a few fake IDs flying around.
You can't be over 40 just covering the ground like that, like, lads. Come on, man.
Keith Rose says, morning all. Lee, when is this season's Newcastle Blue Star away top being released? You've talked about it. It's going to be the old grey one, isn't it? Similar to the Newcastle top back in the day. So do you know any details on that yet?
Well, we've talked about this and we're just trying to keep it, you know, for a couple more weeks because we're trying to do it as a process and because the home tops are flying out as well. We just want to wait until that starts slowing down a bit and then we can release the away kit, which we think will be a huge hit with everyone because it's an iconic, the silver kit with the blue star in the middle is a real iconic one, you know, from the 80s. And it was a very popular strip in its time. And I think for people to get that back out, they'd love to see it. So just obviously because of the, you know, the way things are going, it's just hit us so quickly, the amount of orders we've had on the home tops. We just want to give it a slow release. We just don't want to give everything out there all at once because, you know, we're probably not in a position at the moment to deal with all the requests if they were coming in, do you know what I mean, for both sets of kit. And we don't want to let people down when they've ordered them and they're having to wait, you know, numerous weeks. So we want to make sure that when they do put the orders in, you know, they do get them in a good amount of time. So it's basically so we don't let people down because we don't obviously have the resources at the moment. Eventually we will. That's one area of the club we're looking at, you know, the the kit side and the, you know, the club memorabilia, stuff like that. So that's just the reason, but it will be coming out fairly soon.
And Daryl's just asking where people are getting the Blue Star tops, Lee. Is it the website again?
Yeah, I think the easiest way, Steve, is just to go online and to order them there and get it sorted on that basis.
Yeah, answer to the questions the same for this one. He's ordered his season ticket and home shirt for Newcastle Blue Star last week. Received his season ticket, not his shirt. He can't get hold of anyone at the club. He says, not sure whether people would be working on a Sunday, to be fair. But yeah, again, I would just try working hours, Lee, I suppose.
Yeah, listen, if these people have us on Instagram, that's only social media, you know, area I'm on. If they want to contact us on there, I can try and organise and speak to somebody to see what the process is. And all I'll say is just try and be patient. But if they want to get in touch with us, I can follow that up with people at the club, you know.
Well, we're talking about strips, so we might as well use our fancy new technology that we've got on the show. We had this on with a few of the supporters yesterday, and we've got a resounding answer. So the second strip and the third strip are rumoured to be like this, Lee and Danny. So interested in both your opinions. First up, the second strip for Newcastle United next season is this. And the third strip is this.
Oh, my God.
Right. Well, first of all, Lee, your thoughts on the second strip?
I've been involved in the team when they've had like a sort of a yellow away kit. If you remember in the 90s, we had the yellow top and the green shorts. And it was a successful strip for us. So if hopefully they can follow in what happened there. Not too concerned with that, I think, but that one's just horrific. I don't know who's chose that. That's just horrendous. I mean, come on. Hopefully they will never have to wear that. Yeah,
well, they'll have to wear it once. I think that's the priority with it. But it looks as if somebody's run over it with a car. So, Danny,
surely there's some input, because I remember they were talking that Sir John and Lady May and Kevin had a massive impact and decision making when we got the original maroon and blue away kit, and obviously the black and white with the collared top with the brown nail. And that went down brilliantly. So they obviously had a huge input in that. So I'd like to know who's had an input in that purple kit.
So just a reminder, Danny, this one is your second choice after your black and white strip, of course. And this one is your third choice. Are you a fan of either of them?
Yeah, I've got the same opinion as Lee. I mean, the first one I think's all right. The second one just looks like it's sort of been rag-rolled, and I think God knows what whoever designed the third one, whatever they were taking at the time, probably LSD or something. You know, it's like sequel is just coming at you. You know what I mean? It's just like, to be fair, I suppose it would be a good strategy for the opposition. Do you know what I mean? Because like when you're running at the team and you've got that top on, they're like, Jesus Christ, what's that coming at us? You know. But I suppose it could be good strategy having that other strip. You know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. As you say, it's down to opinion, like. But somebody suggested
you know what to do, Steve. Now as well, a lot of times with football clubs, to try and choose a kit that can be worn by the supporters in a more casual sense as well, with a pair of jeans or something to go to the match. I mean, no one's going to surely attempt and buy that and wear it, walk up to St. James's with that top on with a pair of jeans or something on the casual look and think they're going to look cool, are they?
Well, it's going to look,
as Daddy says, there's probably have to taken some illegal substance or something to think they look good in that.
I tell you what, by 2 o'clock in the big market when you 2 o'clock in the big market when you're having a kebab and you're spewing up, probably the third one would fit right in. Like, it would certainly not show any stains anywhere. Obviously, the other talking point of this week is that the Premier League and our friend Richard Masters, who's gone missing, the petition that the fans or fans set up reached 100,000 yesterday. And I mean, that's phenomenally, really, when you think about it. And I know petitions, sometimes people can sign them twice, or, it can be, not necessarily your name put on there. But I think this was more a numbers game, wasn't it? It was more about, showing the Premier League that they've messed, like Danny said right at the top of the program, with the wrong fan base.
Absolutely. It's the strength of the feelings of as supporters that we feel, and they feel rightly so, that they've been let down. It's dragged on too long, this decision, or whatever decision they were making that's made the Saudis walk away from this, could have been made many, many weeks ago. And it's because what it done is just built everyone's hopes up so strongly, you know, that everyone was talking which market we're going to be shopping in terms of players, the new potential training facilities that we're going to have that I keep harping on about. It was just all positive, and then all of a sudden, bang. And there's, you know, some of the reasons that have been given out, I've already been on record as saying, if the Premier League are starting to let other football clubs delve into other football clubs as own business and be allowed to influence that, we're going down a very, very scary route, because, you know, clubs who see someone potentially becoming powerful, and they know what Newcastle can become if they're financed right, because they've seen that in the 90s, that they can become a powerful team in the domestic game and also in Europe. And I think the fear that if that's been the case, where clubs have been allowed to influence Richard Masters and the powers that be at the Premier League, we're getting into dangerous territory. Manchester City have already accused numerous football clubs. I think the exact number was 9 in the Premier League that wanted them to suffer expulsion from Europe. And obviously, when they won their appeal, you know, that Pep Guardiola wasn't slow in coming out and condemning those people. And he's quite right, for my opinion, because, you know, as a football club, and whenever you've been in a football club, whether I've been as a manager or a player, I've never involved myself with what other clubs are doing. You just concentrate on what your club's doing, and that's the way it should be. Premier League and these powers that be shouldn't be influenced by, because they've got hidden agendas, surely. Those other Premier League clubs that potentially and were rumoured to be the ones who were, you know, questioning and wanted this takeover not to happen if Newcastle United, must have had a hidden agenda, and that hidden agenda could only be they were fearful of what Newcastle could become in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's been a long, drawn-out affair, Danny, hasn't it? And I mean, talk about our bad luck as Newcastle fans. Not only do we have to go through a pandemic, but we have to suffer, you know, mental torture once again over a potential takeover at the club.
Oh, mate, do you know what as well? And like I was saying earlier, the fans from Newcastle are just so passionate. And this is how passionate they are. Like my stepdad, John. I mean, I done Jason Manford's show last week, and I was obviously saying it was a big deal for me, this, that, and the other. And he went, it was good. He said, but I couldn't enjoy it. I was like, why? He was like, I'm just stressed over the takeover. This is how passionate the fans are. You know what I mean? Like, people are having sleepless nights because of it, because everyone's just concerned for the club, and they're so passionate about it all. Do you know what I mean? And this is what people like Richard Masters doesn't understand. You know what I mean? Like, people have been going to Newcastle, been going to the match since they were 4-year-old with their dad, you know, and they've been Geordies through and through. And, you know, to them, it's not really about the money. It's about, obviously, you know, they want to see them win. They want to support the club. And then when things like this happen, especially when you get no answers from them, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, it's just dragged on, and that's the problem. And you know, fair play to the supporters trust. You know, they've rallied, they've stood up when we've needed them to. You know, obviously they had a big meeting this week online, a Zoom meeting which Chian Wura sorted out on her YouTube channel. I think it was over 500 people were allowed to subscribe to it, and then it's had big viewing figures. But things seem really start to moving with them. They managed to sort out a system which could help fans email politicians, their MPs, and I think that was, you know, 6,500 letters were sent out within the first 48 hours. Over 30 MPs were contacted, and of course, the main MP who, you know, responded was, of course, Boris Johnson, who is our Prime Minister at the minute. And Boris Johnson obviously responded by letter to a constituent that he had. And it looks very much as if the whole reason for, you know, putting this petition out and getting to 100,000 means that now the Prime Minister is involved. You know, maybe next week we might see some action by the government. Maybe they will put somebody in charge, Lee, to look into this. And, you know, I'm not saying they're going to be able to change the Premier League's mind, but I think perhaps, you know, kick up enough fuss and put enough pressure on the Premier League to say, look, this needs to be rectified. We've got a big situation here because we are, you know, currently doing deals with Saudi Arabia. We can't afford for that to be affected by the purchase of a football club.
100%. I think it needs something that powerful where our Prime Minister goes into the Premier League and says this needs to be looked at, why it took so long in the first place, why this decision, why the Saudis have ended up having to think they have to walk away. And I think you'll find there's been, it hasn't been done by the book. If I would imagine if you put at this potential takeover alongside other various takeovers in the Premier League, you'd find that things haven't been done in the same way. And, what's happened is Newcastle United become the victim of all this and their fans by the situation. It's you get various different questions me and you, Steve, have over the weeks, and there's still a lot of anger towards Mike Ashley. But what I've got to say on this one is Mike's agreed to the deal. He's took on the deal. He's took the deposit, a non-refundable deposit. So he was really up for it. Lee Charnley's statement after it broke down said he's still up for the deal. He wants it to happen. So I think we've got to just keep pushing this. I think that this could be a landmark situation where things get changed, where, football fans, which ultimately all the football club is just about the fans. They're the only loyal people. They're the only people who are there, all the time. Managers and players come and go, but it's the fans who make the football club. And, I think this is showing that, no, we're not the football fans who do eventually, are they're ones who pay the money alongside, I know it's Sky, but it's a football fan who buys the Sky or the various different media outlets who do the Premier League. And the Newcastle fans have stood up for once and said, no, we're not going to be walked over like this. We want answers. We're not just here and prepared to accept that this takeover isn't going to happen. And having the support of the Prime Minister will hopefully mean that, it'll cause a little bit of a ripple in the Premier League, and whoever's made this decision or the process that they went through has to become answerable, and we might be able to resurrect it. I think that's the thing. And as you say, the government is doing deals with Saudi Arabia. Other football clubs have done numerous different sponsorship deals and commercial deals with the Saudis. But all of a sudden, when Newcastle are going to be taken over by potentially the wealthiest people or one of the wealthiest families in the world, it's not possible for various different reasons. And, when it came about who was going to actually be leading the club, which was one of the excuses given. Well, I don't think that's an issue. There's various different peoples on who the new board was going to be, who could be your chairman and chief executives or financial directors, etc. These run billion-pound businesses. They've got the best in the world, so they would be bringing those type of people across to Newcastle United, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical of our luck, isn't it, Danny, when you're potentially going to be the richest club in the world and, the Saudi owned, and there's been so many issues around it. There's been so many letters written by different organizations. A lot of people objecting to this.
Yeah, I mean, like Lee said, I mean, if Mike Ashley's agreed to it, he's taking the deposit. Like, why can't they just let it go ahead? Do you know what I mean? But obviously, like you say, there's obviously a lot of questions that haven't been answered. But it's the fact that we don't know what it is, and it's all up in the air. And I think that's the frustrating thing for the fans. Like, no one actually knows what's going on, and everyone's been like, well, why? Why isn't it happening? And I think that's the frustrating thing for everybody,
Yeah, James Brown takes us on to football now. He says, morning, lads. It's clear to see Newcastle need to sign a striker for the new season. We've been linked to Wilson and King from Bournemouth, but would you take Watkins from Brentford for 18 million release clause? Lee, I'll put this one to you. I've got to be honest, I don't know a great deal about Watkins from Brentford. Obviously, Brentford, didn't have a bad season. But what's your take on that? I know you know your players from other clubs.
Yeah, he's a very impressive player, Steve. He's been in great goal scoring form, but he's also got a terrific work ethic. He's got good pace. He's versatile because while Mortier was there before he got sold to Brighton, Watkins played in a wide position, and then when Mortier left, what they did, rather than go splash the cash, they moved Watkins into the central striker role, and he's been fantastic. Watched him very closely since lockdown was released in terms of the football, and was obviously very keen spectator in the Brentford Fulham playoff final, where thought Fulham and Scott Parker got their tactics brilliant against him. My number one choice out of three would be Callum Wilson. He's done it at Premier League level. He's got that hunger. He's come from the lower leagues. He has pace and power to burn. He scored goals regular. He scored goals on the international stage. Whether, you know, the price will dictate which one to go for. I see Josh King's been linked with Paris Saint-Germain today for 25 million. He also has experience, but if you were, you know, saying out of the three, who would you take at this moment in time? Callum Wilson. But if we went for an Ollie Watkins, would absolutely, definitely be a positive signing for me. Someone who we could develop. What you've got to just realise there is he might take a bit of time because he hasn't experienced the Premier League. But he's also shown over the last couple of seasons in a real impressive Brentford setup, the way they do their business through this Moneyball system, how they do their recruitment, etc. He's been one of the standout players, and he's also been, you know, he's done it in various different positions. So with Newcastle having a limited amount of budget, those players become important for you. But we need a striker. It's got, if Steve has to use all of his budget up on one player, you've got to say that he would have to be bringing a striker in, because we don't know how big that budget's going to be at the moment.
Unknown says, can they design an invisibility shirt for Joe Linton? Oh, hang on, he's already got one. Yeah, Joe Linton, I mean, it's Danny, it's often talked about on this show. You know, I don't want to go too much into it because it ends up becoming the Joe Linton show, but he just didn't live up to his expectations last season. Do you think he can have a better season, you know, next year? Do you think he needed time to fit in? Do you think Steve Bruce will be working on something during the pre-season to try and improve, you know, maybe service to him or improve his game? Do you think there's a chance that we could see a different Joe Linton next season?
Well, hopefully. Do you know what I mean? But like I've always said, give everyone a chance, give everyone a second chance. You know what I mean? But it's like I say, you can't predict what's going to happen. But that's the beautiful thing about football. Do you know what I mean? It's the most unpredictable game in the world. And, you know, but that's the good thing about the Newcastle fans. You know, they're very supportive. But obviously, once you've sort of made too many mistakes, they're sort of like, do you know what I mean? You sort of, you know, you've just got to, you know, I just think when it comes to, you know, if players are making too many mistakes, they're like, right, we've given you so many chances, you know, and that's it. Because they are very forgiving, I think, the Newcastle supporters. So,
yeah. Yeah, a lot of people on about Richard Masters saying he needs to resign. Need to find him before we can even get to that kind of avenue. Brian says there are no red flags in the deal. It would have failed on the first week. Gary Hoffman needs to look into this. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people saying what happens next after the 100,000 signatures as well. Well, you know, I think that was just really a numbers game. To get it to 100,000 puts it in the public spotlight, which has been done. I would expect to see something come from the potential new owners over the next 7 days. And I don't mean making public comment. I mean their next move. I think this has been a deliberate plan. Like I said yesterday on the show, I think this is a stepping back so that they could break the NDAs to come out and say what was going on, so everyone is informed, which stops the situation where we're in, where we're all saying, well, we don't know what's going on. 17 weeks. You know, but it's a waiting game again. We'll just have to wait and see. Sean Foreman says, question for Stephen Lee. Do you know when fans will be allowed to go and watch either Dunstan UTS or Blue Star? As I've heard, fans can watch Step 7 clubs downwards. Lee, have you heard anything on that?
No, there hasn't been any sort of guidance yet on that, but we've heard that they do, I think they're trying to say, you might know this, Steve, as well, is October for a start date for the league programme. And I think when they're meaning the start of the league programme, they're meaning because is like I said at the start, our clubs need fans. We kind of play behind closed doors. It's just not viable. So I think when they're saying that, they're meaning that's when the fans will be ready to come straight in. I think when they're talking about the start of the season, they're meaning obviously, you know, social distancing, but at the football game where fans are allowed in. And I think because of the level we're at and the numbers we get in support, which that would allow that to happen without there being any issues.
Yeah, I've heard exactly the same, to be honest. I've heard some teams further down the pyramid might be able to kick off with fans in the ground a bit sooner, because obviously some people don't pull in a great amount of support. October was mooted yesterday, but as of yesterday, still no confirmation. FA Cup, you know, prelim rounds draws have been made. Dunstan got a bye in theirs, so FA Cup starts in September. So I'm imagining that would be probably Dunstan's first game. But when can fans go back? We don't know. We hope it's sooner rather than later, because otherwise you're going to see teams like teams struggling and potentially going out of business like poor Droylson did. So Sean says, Danny, who do you like to impersonate the most?
To be honest, there's someone who I've been doing quite a lot because everyone requests it. And I would say that is Diane Abbott. And I think a lot of people actually get very shocked when I start to do Diane Abbott because I look like a baldy bouncer impersonating a woman with a slightly higher pitched voice. But what I love about Diane Abbott is the fact that she is constantly looking for the answer that is clearly never there. She's given us material Diane Abbott has. You know what I mean? Especially with the whole. I think it was on LBC with Nick Ferrari, wasn't it? It was the how many police officers, and it turned out that she was only going to be paying like I was something ridiculous, like they would only be earning something like £1,000 a year, something like that. By what she'd work out, and she was really struggling. She was going, it will cost. That was the sort of hook to get into the impression. By the way, she was saying it will cost round about £100,000, something like that. You know what I mean? But I know she's been good. She has like Diane Abbott.
No, I bet she was on TV this morning as well. I saw her, and she looks like she's lost a bit. Looks like she's lost a bit of weight during lockdown. Like so, you know, fair play to her.
A lot of people have been on diets, haven't they? In lockdown. I mean, I've been trying, but then on a weekend I just like a drink, and then Sunday it's Chinese day. I think once you've sort of got your things set, you know what I mean. You're like, oh, it just goes out the window. Then it's like it's like you can't out train a diet, can you? You know, and that is so true.
Well, the good thing for any Diane Abbott fans out there, and if there is any Diane Abbott fans, is at least she had a pair of shoes on. She didn't have like alternate shoes on like she's done.
You know
in the
what's
past.
funny, like, is that people love that impression, but at the same time, I get a lot of stick from people as well. I mean, someone called me a racist because I've done an impression of her. I says, why am I a racist? I says, because he said, oh, because you've done an impression of someone who's a different colour to you. I says, what? So you're saying if someone's black, I shouldn't include them in my impressions? I went, yeah. I said, well, you're the racist then. You know what I mean? Because you're saying you shouldn't include people. I just saw some people on Twitter. Are you not on Twitter, Lee?
No, thankfully, Danny.
You know what, Dave? I don't blame you because there are so many absolute idiots on Twitter who just, everyone seems to have an opinion. Do you know what I mean? They think everyone should value, you know? And a lot of these trolls as well, you know, they don't even have a profile picture. It's like a picture of Snoopy the dog or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, Twitter, mate. Yeah, your best not going on there. Stick to Instagram. Simon Davies says, would you lads use Joe Linton in a make-weight transfer deal, I suppose, to get a decent striker from the Bundesliga? He suggesting Schick or Waghorst or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Steve Bruce seems to like him, Lee, and seems to think that there's life in Joe Linton yet. Do you think that might be an option?
Well, when you talk about a make-weight, Steve, they're usually worth a lot of value.
Good doing it. You'll upset the fans because I get accused of leading a witch hunt against Joe Linton. I try to remain impartial, but
you know what I do? I just deal in realism, and I just watch this play out over the course of the season. And I've been told he's not really a striker; he's a winger. But I never see somebody who goes past anybody, which is the main asset of a wide man. He's physically strong. I never see him win many headers. I never see him, hold off defenders and keep a hold of the possession of the ball. And then what I seen towards the end of the season was a player who didn't even basically look like he was given his maximum effort. And I said that to you in a couple of games. That was a disappointing thing for me. You can be playing poorly, but just give everything you've got. Run around like an absolute lunatic for 90 minutes, when you might get a bit of luck. So I'm not, singling this lad out for, special criticism. I'm just dealing with what I'm seeing. And he, unfortunately, yes, he didn't pick the transfer fee. Yes, he wasn't the person who gave him the most iconic jersey in Newcastle United's history, which was the craziest decision ever. He should have came into the club and tried to prove himself before he was given that. These iconic jerseys at different clubs aren't given away willy-nilly to players. And there was no history of Joe Linton before he came to Newcastle being a goal scorer on a continuous basis, he didn't really have a fantastic pedigree in terms of scoring goals. So don't even put that extra pressure on him by giving him the number 9. It just seemed like we were desperate because we'd signed him as our record signing. We had to give him the most iconic jersey. Well, we didn't. And that hasn't helped him as well. Because as soon as the fans see somebody in our number 9 top, that he's the man we look to. He's our inspiration. He's our leader. He's the man who's going to get from a losing position into a drawing position, or from a drawing position into a winning position. He's going to be the man who will win with a game summit with a bit of magic. And, that hasn't helped. That's a really big thing that sticks in my throat about this. Yeah, we eventually broke our record, but we didn't have to. This should have been thought out. It should have been thought about a lot better. We should have looked at what he'd done. Maybe give him a couple of seasons to prove himself, and then if we think, oh man, he's ready for the number 9. If you didn't have any who were thought ready to be in it, don't give it to anybody. Simple as. You see Man United. The Man United don't give the number 7 jersey out willy-nilly after who's played in that in the past. The Bests, the Beckhams, the Ronaldos. That doesn't be given to anybody. Same with the 7 jersey at Liverpool. These numbers are special. You can imagine who goes in the next number 10 jersey at Barcelona. They'll not give that up willy-nilly to somebody. That's what we've got to think. And, I get it, but I'd argue against anyone who would say, was too strong in my criticism of Joe Linton. Sorry, we're not. It comes with a responsibility when you're someone's record transfer. I've been that myself at a certain club, and I tell you, I've had this story. First 2 months at Fulham, they must have thought they signed an absolute dud. But because I worked hard, and every game, even though I wasn't playing great, I gave everything I could give. They stayed with us, and when I eventually hit some good form and my confidence levels came back, they could see that, and that's what they've done. So I've just seen a decline in what he's given us. He's given us, there hasn't been a lot of quality, there hasn't been a lot of goals, and then towards the end, there hasn't been a lot of effort. So I can stand by what I say, My eyes don't lie.
No, they don't. Base Square says, who's the best impressionist, Danny or Joe Linton? Unknown, of course. We always get these questions on when you're on, Lee. Even when you're not on.
Judging by the way he spelt it, I think he's on the rosier side now.
He's on a roll over this lad, isn't he? Or whoever it is.
He does. I mean, when Unknown chips in, there's always some good points. But he is insistent. When is that rose? Have you tried that rosé cider yet?
I haven't. I tell you what I'm going to do. I promise you, and you'll have to remind us next time we're on, whether it's next Saturday or Sunday, whenever we're going to be on, I'll crack open a bottle and I'll try it. But Unknown, it better be decent stuff, mind.
I was at the barbecue yesterday, right? And my mate goes to me, do you want one of these ciders, mate? I went, yeah, go on then. He went, I've made it. So when someone tells you that they've made their own cider, you just know it's going to be bad news, don't you? Honestly, I think he made it with that methylated spirit with a bit of soda water in there. I was like, I was drinking it just to be polite. I'd had 2. I was like, mate, I'm going to have to go home. It's blown my head off this stuff. So, and you know, I was on here today.
You're doing well to get up for 11.
It's probably better than the one I had yesterday. So, yeah, Lee, give it a try and let me know what it's like.
Wasn't it old prison? It sounds like prison hooch by the sounds of it. Graham Knox is saying, would Lee play Joe Linton at Blue Star?
That's not my decision. If Kenny Wharton wants to try and bid for him as the first team manager, he can have a go. He's welcome.
I love the fact that I was giving this guy, I'm saying, we should give him another chance. And everyone seems to be disagreeing with me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Joe Linton, whenever we start talking about Joe Linton on here, it just goes into chaos. People obviously had enough last season. Unknown anyway, he's defending himself. He says, I'm sober, I'm going to the gym after this anyway. So good luck to him. You don't need to be on the side when you go to there. Mike
will be all over the place.
Michael says, I'm sure Joe Linton made a comment saying goals don't matter. That's when he lost all respect off me. He did. It was in the Chronicle. It was an interview. And Malcolm MacDonald, we'll have him on the show once a week. And somebody who played in that number 9 shirt with all the passion and scored a lot of goals. And, if you can't listen to him about Joe Linton and you still defend him, then, maybe you want to watch something a little bit different. But yeah,
Steve, Steve in that context is right. That statement he's making there. You've got to be making contributions in other ways. You've got to be assisting goals. You've got to be the target man. You've got to be winning headers. You've got to be holding the ball up. But he doesn't actually do. You've got to be going past people. And there's no evidence of that happening. I'm sorry, but there just isn't. We've watched it. No. I'll go watch a full rerun in Newcastle United season again to see if I've missed anything, but I'm sure I haven't.
Christ, don't do that, Lee. You'll be scarred for life, mate. Dave Gordon says, do you think Joe Linton could be a potential future Firmino in a better team? Would he be any better? I mean, so I don't know. Would he, if he's playing in Liverpool's team, Lee, is he going to be suddenly, banging the goals in?
Well, the comment that's just been made there about goals don't matter. Well, Firmino, I don't even think he scored a league goal this season at home. But what he does to the team in other ways, he's a provider. They have the Manes and they have the Salahs, and he makes numerous chances for them. And, he's a terrific technician. He's always creating opportunities for himself. Probably it's causing a little bit of a problem that he hasn't scored at home in the league in the season. But he's been part of a team that's won the league. He's been part of an attacking team that's just played phenomenal football, and he plays the way Klopp wants to play. He plays the pressing game well without the ball. I would love to be proved wrong. If we can get a top, a real good Premier League experienced striker in, and we can put in the try Joe Linton in the number 10 role behind him, and it works, I'd love to be proved wrong. I want to be proved wrong. I don't want to see any of the players fail. I want us to be a successful team. So bring it on. Let's see. Let's try. I no doubt. I think Steve will be looking for answers, because you never want to sign in to fail, and especially one who's a club record signing. You don't want to be moving them onto a club who, when he hasn't really done it for you. You want to try and get the best. Steve, as his manager, has to give him all, and he has. I think Joe Linton couldn't have expected any more help and backing from his manager than what Steve's given this season, both, probably in privately, but also in the public domain. I think he's been a manager who's never, ever criticised him, and just, really basically put an arm around him, says, you come good, be patient. So I think Steve sees that it could be difficult to move him on. He's got to try and find a solution. And now if we get that striker in, it might be the solution. I don't know. I haven't seen it so far, but as I said, love to be proved wrong, without a doubt.
Yeah, me too. Paul Ross says, where is Kate Stewart? Kate, of course, was on Twitter. She's been a big ally to Newcastle fans in getting the word out to the people in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, a lot of Saudis don't speak English, and a lot of English don't speak Arabic. But Kate, sadly, her account being suspended on Twitter. I think she's been attacked a lot by a lot of Qatar accounts, and I spoke to Kate yesterday. She's still done a bit. She's still helping other people with their accounts. But yeah, Kate's fine. I'm hoping to see her in a couple of weeks' time when I'm down in London, but I will pass on your concerns. Danny, have you seen Daniel Farley do his football and personality impressions? He's class as Rooney. I've seen Danny's. He has tried to corner the football market, hasn't he? A little bit, Danny.
Well, yeah, that's it. I think people sort of fit into certain categories with impressions now, because back in the day, I had this chat with Mike Yarwood, actually. There was 3 channels, so everyone knew who you were doing. Whereas now you've got people who are doing reality stars, you've got people who are sort of doing comics, you've got people who are doing politicians, you've got people who are doing footballers. And that's obviously his market, you know what I mean? And he's obviously a huge football fan. And yeah, the ones I've seen him do, he does brilliantly, do you know what I mean? But yeah, like I say, I mean, the only ones that I ever done really was obviously Motson when I first started. Do you know what I mean? Playing FIFA all the time. And Beckham as well. I think my Beckham is basically when I used to watch Alisson McGowan do Beckham, and his voice has sort of changed over the years. So, and I thought sometimes if you speed him up a bit more, you turn into Michael McIntyre. Yes. So some voices sort of overlap. Do you know what I mean? And then because obviously they're doing stand up as well, I'm watching comics all the time. This is what Jason Manford said. He said, it's great working with Danny because he basically does all our mates. And but yeah, it's when you're doing I'm working with comedians all the time, and I can do impressions of them before they become famous, and then they get on the telly and I'm like, oh, nice one, they're in the set now. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's probably why I do a lot of comics now.
He's putting you under pressure. Live Goals. He says, can you do an impression of Lee or Steve?
No, I haven't really attempted. I mean, I can do it. I can have a stab at it. Give us a sentence to say, use both, and I'll have a go.
Well, I usually say it's 100%, especially when I'm talking about the takeover.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I don't know, because you're a bit more, Jordan. You slow down a bit, don't you, Steve? When you're like that, and you're very precise with everything that you say, and you add the "ing" at the end of your "y" when you say words like that. Give me something to say, Lee, and I'll try it. I'll have a go at you.
I will usually say about the takeover, I believe it when I'll see it.
The takeover, I'll believe it when I see it. It's like I find it's a bit like Andy Portland, isn't it? That's what you slow it down a bit more, and you've got like on you. I'm just delighted. Like,
do you know what, Danny? When I was a football manager, I used to have to deliver like team talks in some, when I was delivering things to the group, and I had to try and change things because, if I was like saying we've got to push out like the back four, I'm thinking, well, he's from Argentina, he's from Scotland. I wouldn't have a clue what I'm on about. So I used to have to try and put a bit of an accent, well, not a southern accent, but just try and use the Queen's English, which was difficult.
John, thank you for coming on, mate. He says, can you do Gaza? Danny, can you do Gaza for him?
The thing is with Gaza, right? What I love about Gaza is he sounds like he's about to cry, like, you know what I mean? And sometimes, like, he's talking to you, you don't know whether he's like going to get really emotional or he's going to start taking the piss out of you. You know what I mean? That's the beautiful thing about Gaza. Like, I remember when I worked with him and that, he came up to me and he says, "Hello," and he said, "I thought you were brilliant on Britain's Got Talent, man." I'm going, hang on, I should be going up to you saying, "Gaza, you're a legend." Like, I was buzzing for meeting him, and he said he saw me on the telly, and then he thought about he always has a punchline, Gaza, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
He goes, it's great to see you've still got a head full of skin. Like, does he even all bald people?
He calls me Tut Baldy Nut whenever he rings us, like, so he's doing a bit better now anyway, which is good to hear. So he had a bad start to lockdown, but he's back on the mend, which is always good to hear. Jason says, can we do any impressions? Lee, have you ever done any impressions, even on the cider?
No, I mean, I tried because of the conversations I had when I played under Aussie dealers, which was quite difficult. The one at Barnsley was away when we went out onto the pitch, and it wasn't the greatest of pitches. And he came in and he was, bitty bubbly. And like, I looked at him as if to say, what he just said there, Aussie. And he looked at me and says, "You not understand English, Clarky?" That's the best you can get out of me, lads. That's the best you can get out of me.
Well, match of the day, John Motson. Here we are at St James's Park. There's no crowds here, but John Motson here. It's my very first game, and it's Newcastle United versus Hereford in the FA Cup. That was
really good. I love the fact that you've got the headset on as well, which it's like, you know what, Steve? It's like you've sort of prepared for this, right? You've got props and everything. It's either that or he looks like he's about to play live on Call of Duty with his mates. Do you know what I mean?
Classic. I didn't have the sheepskin, lads. It's too warm in Dunstan.
Danny, I was going to ask you, Danny, you ever worked with Mark Crosley, a mate of mine?
I haven't, mate, no.
He's got the best Brian Clough impression ever.
Has he? Yeah.
Absolutely class.
Yeah.
Getting some great feedback anyway. You've certainly made people laugh, and even yours, your Aussie dealers has gone down well, Lee. You might have a career. I'm even getting some praise, which is great. So that's very nice. Thanks. I think everybody really enjoyed that, including John. So thanks, John. Thanks for giving us a shout as well, for recommending to have Danny on the show. We're quickly approaching the end of the show, lads. Got about 6 minutes left. The season, I saw Tom Dixon ask about fans coming back in again, and there's still no answer on that, is there, Lee? Really, we were talking about Dunstan and Blue Star before, but they're still talking about a maximum of 25% capacity for league games at St James's Park and other Premier League grounds and EFL grounds, etc. And again, I just don't know how they're going to do that. Really,
we've talked about this on so many occasions, Steve. How do you fit the criteria to be one of the 25%? Because I'm sure, especially when Newcastle, whatever the criteria is, if you've a season ticket holder, if you've been to all the home games, if you've applied for away tickets, you'll have more than 25% who've done that. It'll be like, I know we've got to get back to trying to do it in a gradual way, but I just think it's going to cause absolute chaos. You're going to have so many disappointed people and angry people who haven't been chosen as those 25%. Are they going to accept it just while this happens and while we can just try and do it gradually, which looks like it's going to be the case, or they're going to kick up a fuss? We don't know. Then do they start asking for refunds on the game they've missed from their season tickets? Because I still think there's been a lot of loyal supporters who've just continued to pay for their season tickets in the hope that, you know, they're going to get back in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Danny, it's bad enough not having fans, but then to just have a small section of fans, it's not going to be the same, is it? And I would imagine because of the coronavirus, you're not going to have away fans. So a lot of the good stuff about going to the matches, you know, you're singing against the fans who come from far and wide to come and watch their teams. It's just not going to be the same, is it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, football hooligans must be fuming at the minute. You know what I mean? Saturday afternoon out, they're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, we got knocked off the Luton fans last time. Do you know what I mean? So they're obviously prepped for the next time to see them. You know, when there's more fans, it's like, you know. So I suppose that's a good thing in a way. But no, I just think it's interesting because I was talking to it's the same with MMA as well. I was talking to an ex-MMA fighter called Frank Trigg, and he just said, you know, when it comes to sports, you know, obviously the fans are important, but whether the fans are there or not, you know, you've still got to give 100. I mean, did you find, Lee, when you were obviously playing with all them thousands of fans there, did you feel that it enhanced your performance?
I did. That was the adrenaline rush I got, Danny.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, when me and Steve were talking about this as we approached the return of football, I found it difficult to think and comprehend how the players could motivate themselves. And I think if when we watched the first couple of rounds of the first games of the comeback, I think the players looked that way, that it was a weird situation. You know, when you're playing at the clubs, at a club like Newcastle, that last 10 minutes when maybe you're, you know, at level and they're trying to push you on to get a winner and you get a little bit of momentum with that. But just the adrenaline rush for me was the big thing. That's the big thing you miss when you stop playing. So to go out on a regular basis playing in the Premier League and it's just silence in the ground. Because when you watch it on the telly and you can put that audio on, if you remember in the stadium, you haven't actually got that. So it's just like, it'll be like training. Well, I was going to say it'd be like training, but when I was at Newcastle and we had we trained at Maiden Castle, the public training facility, we had 5,000 to 10,000 watching with there. And anyway,
I remember coming to watch this when I was a kid. Yeah.
So it was like, no, I've got to say, I probably would have found it difficult. You know, really difficult, because that was the big thing for me, the adrenaline rush of the supporters.
Yeah, 100%. Well, hopefully we'll get back to some kind of normality, and hopefully in the week ahead as well there'll be some kind of positive news on the takeover. So when we're back on next week, Lee, you know, we can have something more positive to talk about. But we'll wait and see. Danny, we're going to leave the final word to you this week, mate. Give us another impression to finish off with.
What I will say is, as your Prime Minister, I will make sure that Richard Masters is spoken to, and I will make sure that the takeover will happen, because I am well behind Newcastle United. They have the best supporters and they have the best people around them. And Steve Wraith, you have done so much for the club, and I would love a meeting with you eventually, and we will discuss everything. And when I do my daily updates, I will not talk about COVID-19. I will talk about the takeover. Yes,
Fantastic, mate.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant to have you on, mate. Give your social medias a shout, mate. Where can people find you on social media, mate?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Posthill Danny, and I am on Instagram, Danny_Posthill, and I'm on Danny Posthill Impressionist on Facebook as well. I tried TikTok, not for me. Sorry, you know, all the people dancing and all. I couldn't deal with it, so I don't bother with that.
Yeah, you'll not catch me and Lee on that either, I don't think. Mark Domigan's just after a quick request. He plays in an over 50s team in Northern Ireland. Would love to bring a team over to play the Star 40s and raise money for the food bank of your club when everything's back to normal. So if you contact Lee, maybe he's on Instagram, Mark. If you're on there, that would be great. And if not, Google Newcastle Blue Stars website. Drop them an email, mention that you've spoken to Lee about it on the show, and I'm sure you'll be able to, essentially be able to get in touch, and I'm sure that can be arranged at some point. I'm sure Lee will be well up for that.
100%.
Yeah, great stuff. Everyone's loved it. Thanks for watching. I'll be back a little bit later on today. We're going to do 2 shows today with my good pal, Al Walid, across in Saudi Arabia. We're going to do a world special. We've got fans from Australia, Ireland, Saudi Arabia on later on. So that's 3 o'clock this afternoon. I'm away from my dinner. Danny Posthill, thanks for joining us. Lee Clark, thanks for joining us. I'll see you next week, Lee. Take care, lads.
Cheers.
Cheers, Danny.
Danny. Thank you.